Hello and welcome back to the Best of Rivals podcast. A slight change today. We don't have Matt with us, though we have someone a lot more charming and a lot more handsome in Sean Loughney.
Don't make
Thanks
me
for
as red
joining
as
the
me
pod.
jersey, Ryan. Huh?
He's been in the sun, but he's enjoying himself. Well, main reason we've got Sean on, two reasons really. Firstly, he's an Irishman living in an era where England may well win the World Cup. So it can't be too happy for him. But more importantly, Sean, as an Irishman, was living or is living in Mexico City. And of course, that's been one of the epicenters of the tournament. Had some fantastic games. And of course, the Mexicans have been treated to a decent tournament from their team. So, Sean, good to have you on. I think to start off with,
Yeah.
really, mate, is what was it like in the build-up in Mexico? You was living there, you was living and breathing it.
The build-up, do you know what? Firstly, Mexico, they weren't playing many friendly games in Mexico. So the Azteca wasn't built. So we didn't really get to soak up that atmosphere too much. The build-up in general would have been a lot of pressure on Mexico. There is a lot of pressure on them, even though the majority of Mexican players play in the Mexican League. They're arguably up there at one of the worst standard Mexican teams in a couple of decades, couple of World Cups, with a few individuals standing out. But no, it doesn't matter who's in the squad for Mexico. There's always pressure on them. They played a good caliber of opponents building up to played Serbia, Portugal. Didn't lose to any of them actually. And it was a good build up. Yeah, it was a good build up. Yeah.
And I was speaking to a Mexican friend prior to the tournament, and they were saying that, yes, of course, everyone was excited, but they almost felt like the Americans were stealing most of the limelight, and it was almost like a mad rush from the Mexicans to get everything ready. There was rainstorms and things like that, so there was some concerns the day before or something. Did you see any of that?
Yeah, look, I was something I was going to mention as well was that you didn't really feel so the game kicked off. The first game kicked off on a Thursday, Mexico, South Africa, and you didn't feel much in the build up to the World Cup that week. Never mind the weeks before. So we didn't feel anything. You don't feel any of the World Cup atmosphere unless you're in the city centre. So yeah, it wasn't really until the day before or the match day where you see Mexican jerseys everywhere. But when you see it, it's unreal as soon as you're thrown into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the videos there in the center of Mexico City look pretty epic, as you'd probably
Yeah.
expect. I mean, if anyone's going to throw a good fiesta, it's the Mexicans, right?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, the main places to be wasn't actually the center. It was Roma Norte. You're probably familiar with Roma Norte. Roma Norte, bars are and all that. There was lots of protests. So I don't know whether you've seen it in the news, but there was lots of protests going on, like there is with any World Cup. This one was mainly around the mothers and fathers protesting the disappearance of their kids. There's 133,000 people currently missing in Mexico still. So they were the main protesters. Teachers came in there because and other public sectors because there's no pension in Mexico at the moment for anybody in the public sector. So they took this chance, but there was only 6 games in Mexico City overall, only 14 in Mexico throughout the whole World Cup. There's 140 odd games. So, they didn't really get the chance to highlight what they really wanted to highlight.
Right. So you could argue potentially, what they say when a World Cup comes to a country, the economic benefit it brings. Maybe Mexico didn't really see that, given that it was only a few games, and the resources needed to get them ready could have outweighed actually the net benefit.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem. It goes to show you as well. I mean, the trend is that countries aren't hosting it on their own anymore, besides Russia and Saudi Arabia in 2034. I mean, Ireland and England went for the 2031, Ireland and UK, and then they said, Jesus, we can't afford this. So they went down for the Euros 2028. And Mexico would have never been able to afford that on their own. And that's why they only hosted 14 games. And as I said, you didn't really feel anything besides on the match day in Mexico, which is, but when you feel it, you see in the videos, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you mentioned that the standard of the Mexican team. Obviously, they probably played out the skins getting to the position that they did. And of course, they gave England a very good game. But it's right what you're saying. And I think pre-game, we had quite a lot of commentary on, yes, there's the altitude, yes, there's the heat. But when you actually break it down, one of their top striker is now plays for Wolves. He's going to be playing in the Championship next year. And yes, they had a few creative players, but ultimately, on paper, very beatable side. How much do you think the
Yeah.
conditions helped them along the tournament? Because they had a very good group stage, didn't they?
Well, look, Mexico were helped that they were top seed for being a host because the caliber of their opponents were quite poor. South Africa, that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a team in the World Cup when they beat South Africa. Yeah, Czech Republic was not a difficult game. South Korea was, besides England, Korea was the most difficult game. And Ecuador just didn't show up at all. I think Ecuador only scored 2 goals in their 4 games in the whole World Cup. So, they were lucky with their group in terms of the caliber of opponents they were playing for. But also, yeah, the conditions, what are they, 2,000 feet, 2,200 feet above sea level.
Mm,
So you feel it. I mean, Tuchel said it affected his sleep, and do you know what? It's not only the altitude; it's the pollution as well.
right.
Pollution is horrendous in Mexico, and you're right up in it. You're breathing it in. That doesn't help for it either. So and look, Tuchel, you probably noticed Tuchel. I mean, England was training in has been training in Kansas, and that's not far off the
Mm,
same altitude as Mexico
right.
City, minus the pollution. I don't know, but yeah, yeah, with Mexicans, below average team, I would say, but they just give it all for the badge, and the conditions definitely helped them. Yeah, yeah,
And the fans seem to enjoy it, didn't they? And I guess given
yeah.
that you were over there and your personal relationships, you were supporting them, were you? Was Mexico your team for the tournament?
Oh well, it would have been Ireland unless we lost. We lost the penalties against Czechia, didn't we? We would have been in Mexico's group.
Yeah.
So I was still traumatized by that. But yeah, Mexico was my team. Yeah, it's hard not to support Mexico when you jump into the crowd and you go to the Angel of Independence and everyone's so happy. And what's great about this World Cup is that there's been no violence really. Certain countries usually up to their old shenanigans, but when you're in with the Mexicans, you feel Mexican, they make you feel like that. And even the English, the English were videoing all the great things that were going on over in Mexico.
Yeah.
The Mexicans were saying this and giving them that and saying this, but at the end of the day, they were celebrating with England after they won the game, weren't they?
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
that was great to see. There's nothing but love from the Mexicans, but yeah, they've high expectations for a very low
Mm.
standard team.
It's weird that, isn't it? I mean, I from the times I've been over in Mexico, the people are always very humble, very warm, know how to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
But the fact that well, I guess most teams do, but weird as you said that a team sort of so low in the rankings are very expectant. But I suppose that's part and parcel. Everyone wants to win. The World Cup comes around every 4 years. Very special
Right.
occasion. You're blessed to be there. Like you say, Ireland didn't make it, Italy didn't make it. Some great footballing nations that weren't even present there. So it's understandable, I guess.
Yeah, funny you say that. You think Mexico would be. Where would you guess Mexico's in the FIFA rankings? Where would you guess?
I couldn't imagine they're any lower than 40. So I'm going to say, and let's say 56 if I was to put a number on it.
So the FIFA rankings got updated a couple of weeks ago. They're ranked number 10 in the world.
Oh, okay. That's unbelievable. How did they work that one out? Were they seeded for that as well? Jesus.
I know. Like, because as they said, their caliber of opponents have been really poor, but it just depends on how. It's like Belgium, it just depends on
Yeah,
how consistent
yeah,
you
yeah,
are. Um, they haven't beaten anybody good, really.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Belgium, and maybe this is a fact for Mexico, as well, Belgium usually seem to do quite well in friendlies and the qualifiers. They usually,
Yeah,
get top of their group, win their games. And then when they get to the tournament, for various reasons, and you touch on Belgium, they did have a golden generation, didn't they? But they've suffered over the years. But this time round, didn't seem to be a decent team, really. But they're there in the quarterfinals now.
yeah, and they're putting De Bruyne and Doku on the bench the last 2 games, and then they come on, and well, it seems to be working. They were definitely down and out, weren't they, against Senegal? Yeah, I thought they were very demoralised, and boom, there's your goal. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, in terms of the tournament as a whole, I think it's been one of the best footballing tournaments for footballing quality.
yeah.
I think certainly not just the games, but the Golden Boot race in itself is something that we've never seen before. How have you found the actual games in terms of quality of football?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be on the same time zone as a lot of these games. The quality of football has been really good. It's been really good. Very positive football. Teams are always looking to play forward all the time, which is great to see. And even like you look at Egypt against Argentina last night, You look at Cape Verde against Argentina as well. Cape Verde in general. I mean, these teams, Curaçao against Germany, these teams are just not afraid to go for it, and they're not sitting back. And then, as you said, the Golden Boot. These boys are just hungry to get these goals. You know, and where we just finished the season where people are going, the Premier League is getting boring. They're not saying the same for the Champions League, but it's great to see that then for the World Cup, isn't it? Just that we're still in a great time for football, great exciting times.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's quite often said of late of previous seasons compared to, let's say, a decade ago, sort of the death of the striker. There's not that many world-class strikers anymore. Whereas a decade ago, 2 decades ago, was blessed with so many top quality strikers. Whereas now there are a few fantastic quality strikers that we've seen in the World Cup this time round, and they're all doing well at the same time, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, yeah, you don't want Leon Trossard getting top goal scorer or something, you know what I mean?
So, I mean, who's your favourites then? We know what the quarterfinals are now, so you can start to map out the route to the final. I think the overwhelming favourite's quite obvious, but what's your thoughts?
I've had money on Argentina to win it since the start. Based off the route to their final, they were always going to have somewhat of a decent run in until the semi-finals, and so I still think the way they play, the dirtiness and their just ways of getting out of situations, I think, and they have the main man. The strikers are doing great. They're relying very heavy on Ramiro and Martinez, the centre backs, to get goals. But that goes to show you they have character, they have personality. I'd go with Argentina. Saying that, Spain has 6 clean sheets in a row. Unbelievable. And they're great at getting through them little pockets, even when teams are sitting back against them. They have them players to be able to do that. France are just a bunch of geniuses. I mean, they're just an I've seen a stat that they're somewhere near the bottom for actual distance ran in the whole tournament. So it goes to show you they're just they don't have to work very hard to show the talents that they have. They're just Mbappe. He just takes that little touch going that way and he's able to curl it in. And the same with Elise, Dembele. It's been great to see. Yeah. I mean, this time next week, we'll probably have an idea who's in the final. But I'm going to Argentina for it. I think they'll somehow do the dark arts all the way to the trophy. What do you think yourself?
Yeah, I mean, they're a very dogged side, aren't they? And anyone that beats Argentina has probably got to go to the wire in the game against them. As we saw against Egypt, I mean, take away the refereeing decision to get back from 2-0 down the way they did. That's a sign of a team that just does anything to win, and it's going to take a big performance to beat them. Like you say, with France, they're just blessed in attack. Most teams have that one-star striker that they're relying on. Haaland for Norway, Kane for England. You take them out, then they're suffering. Whereas if and it hasn't happened, if Mbappe was off form, you've got Dembele, you've got Elise. If another one, you've got the other ones coming off the bench as well. They're going into most games sort of expecting goals, 2.5 to 3 goals a game, and to beat that is going to be very difficult. But what I would say is, I think the team most likely to beat France or come across France is Spain, just simply because the way they're organized, like you mentioned, clean sheets all the way through the tournament. Very boring to watch. They haven't got a standout performer, but they're very consistent. They've got consistent and equitable players off the bench that pretty much like for their replacements. I think Yamal's probably had a very poor tournament this far, but that's not to say he can't suddenly bring it on for the next 3 games all the way to the final. He could still make a mark on the tournament. But that's the only chance, I think, of France coming out. And certainly, as an England fan, looking at that side of the draw, I'd much rather be coming up against Spain in the final than France. Though the Spanish themselves, they know how to beat England, so it's going to be difficult. And that's assuming we can come across Argentina. So that's a very fruitful looking game if we do get there. But let's not rule out Norway because they've been quite a good side to watch, doing the job. And Haaland probably reached a level that even we didn't see him at City, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I don't know the guy's name, but the fella that set up Haaland's 2 goals, he's on the left wing, has been unbelievable. And Norway they have these. I don't know what their average age is. I can only imagine, but they just have these young generational stars, don't they? Remember in the last World Cup qualifiers, just a blip of a memory, they were disappointed not to get to the World Cup then. And it goes to show you, like these lads have definitely evolved together over the last 4 years. And, they got a Premier League winning captain in there, future Ballon d'Or, few golden boots in Haaland. Sorloth, on the right, I mean, he's been unbelievable for Atletico Madrid this season beside Alvarez and Lookman. So yeah, they're just full of consistency, which is great. Yeah, it's great. Maybe they were talking about our new Belgium here, where we're saying, oh, these lads will get third place, fourth place. Maybe Morocco's in there as well. But Norway and England, it's an interesting battle, isn't it? Because it's two teams that are just clicking so well together, that have gone through the dog fights together. Norway did lose to France in the group stage. I don't know what their friendlies were like building up to this the tournament, but they won every game in the qualifiers. And Italy and Israel was in them groups. So, I think, geez, Norway, England, that is some game to watch. Saturday night, 10 o'clock, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I went down to my local pub at lunchtime, made sure we got a table. It's gonna be mouth-watering, and like you say, I think fair play to Norway. You're right. I think it was Euro 2012 where they didn't make it, and so took a look back, looked at all their facilities across the country, implemented a strategy of all weather pitches, because obviously in the winter it's snowing, it's so cold there, so that the youth could play year round, and that's obviously had a massive effect. And then when you throw in star quality and the journeys that both Haaland and Odegaard have had since they were young, it just gives the younger generation hope. And to be fair to them, short of them playing England, they would have probably been my next favourite team to go on and do it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I'm going to have to hope that Haaland is either not starting, or that John Stones and G can keep him quiet, his City teammates.
You're knocking out everybody's favourites, aren't you? Mexico, Norway. Lucky you didn't play Cape Verde on the way as well, huh?
Well, the Irish fella was it Cape Verde? The Irish fella in the centre back, yeah.
Huge over here. He's huge. He's a celebrity. He has to play a Champions League qualifier next week, a second leg for Shamrock Rovers.
Unbelievable.
So he's huge. He's already on the World Cup panel on our national TV station.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Just came home yesterday as well.
Yeah.
So, and he already did the World Cup. Yeah.
Why was he not why was he not considered by the Irish FA? Just not good enough, seemingly, or?
But look, number one, he's 34 years of age, playing in the Irish League, and he never really got any further than that, from my memory. Ireland, historically, in the last couple of years, we've always had great central defenders. And recently, our two central defenders are Premier League captains. That was Nathan Collins and Dara O'Shea, so for Brentford and Burnley. So he was never getting in there. There was somebody else as well, I'm forgetting, in Ireland, but he wasn't at the calibre now to get into the Ireland squad. So it's easy for us to say why he wasn't in the Ireland squad, but no, he wouldn't be. You've heard about the story as to how he got called up to Cape Verde, did you?
And was it a LinkedIn? They searched for people that had dual nationality. Was that it?
Yeah, they reached out to him in Portuguese, and he thought it was a scam. So then the next he's like, I'm not messaging them back there. And then a couple of months later, the next international duty, they translate it as, listen, I don't know whether you've seen our last message or not, but we want you to play for Cape Verde. Would you be up for it? Yeah, no worries. So I don't know how many years that's been since he's played. I know Cape Verde, they've been doing this all over the world. No one really lives in Cape Verde. And it's been a great couple of months for him. I mean, in the month of May, Cape Verde officially qualified. He won the double with Shamrock Rovers. That's the league and the cup. And he had a baby, and then he went off to the World Cup. Oh. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Fair play to him. Fair play. Well, football aside, I know you're into your history and politics, and obviously there has been a bit of a darker side to the tournament in terms of some of the conspiracy theories, the influence of Trump, particularly over that Bannigan red card. What were your thoughts there?
I mean, it's blatant and obvious, and I don't think anybody's denying that. I think it's the same thing happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. He elbowed Nathan Collins straight in the face, got a red card. That would be a 2-game ban. He should have been banned for the first game against Congo. Ronaldo then went to the White House a week after that red card, and it was the same article was used. Nobody talked about that. And so everyone's talking now about this fella's red card. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, it's so blatant and obvious. I mean, Trump is even making it obvious. It shouldn't have been allowed. I imagine even the player came out and said that he thought it was AI. He thought it wasn't true. So yeah, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, when we launched this podcast on episode one, I did make prediction that there'll be some sort of Trump influence in this tournament. And I'm sort of happy that the US did get knocked out in the end because the deeper they got into this tournament, I just could imagine the more he would sort of get involved in the referee. Let's say if there was that 50-50, you always get that slight home advantage, don't you? But, if you came up against the Americans in the semi-final, let's say, any decision that the referee faced, it'd probably go in the Americans' favor even if it's blatantly obvious, just because of that influence that he has, and not a great image for FIFA and Infantino as well. I mean, really, it's on them. Yes, you always expect it from Trump, which doesn't
Yeah.
hide away from the fact that he's he's a fraud himself. But FIFA really should have just taken a step aside and said no, we're a reputable organization built on heritage and history, and we can't set a precedent like this.
Yeah, we'll probably see some Netflix documentary series about this, and they'll be found guilty of what Infantino will be found guilty of whatever the charges are. I mean, I think the European Union are launching an investigation. Yeah, let's see, Sepp Blatter was found guilty by the FBI. They ransacked his house for all the corruption charges. I mean, yeah, let's see, because, as you said, there's lots of history of this. You can go back to Mussolini when Italy won it in 34, 38. He very famously went into the referee's dressing room and said, make sure it was Italy versus Austria. And this was Austria's last World Cup before they were taken over by Germany. And they were the best footballing nation by a mile. And Austria was beating them at half time. And famously, Mussolini went in and threatened the lives of the referees, and Italy went on to win the game. Now, there is a lack of evidence on that story. Maybe it's more that it's just easy to tell because they were living under a dictatorship, and the World Cup in '34 was in a country of a dictatorship in Italy. I mean, there's been countries, obviously, like Brazil hosted it under a military dictatorship. Argentina, we can go back and have a look, but. Yeah, it's sports washing inevitably, isn't it?
Well, Sean, I mean, your historical knowledge is second to none, and you can probably speak for hours about your knowledge around history and sport, which is great to hear. But maybe just to finish us off, then you're obviously a history teacher in Mexico City. You've had a crack in the past of setting up your own sort of history channel, which I really enjoyed. You did good job there creating content. So Sean's almost, you could call yourself a traveling teacher, aren't you? You've taught in China, Italy, Brazil, now in Mexico. Pretty epic story. And as you traveled, you just got immersed in the history and started recording shorts and YouTube videos about what you were seeing.
Yeah.
Can we be maybe seeing more of that in the future?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm going to start working with AI more than anything. So, I mean, one of my dreams, and I hope I'm alive for it, is when you'll be able to immerse yourself somewhat in a historical past. That's always been my dream to be able to see. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start making like AI history videos where I'm having a chat with historical figures about they did what they did, and them kind of, it's like a ghostly version of themselves, and them talking about the consequences of what they did and what they didn't do. And how I'm gonna have a bit of fun with it. We'll make it a little historically accurate, but also with a bit of humor and yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Have you got a YouTube handle already, or still to create it?
No, I don't. I still have to create
Okay.
it. Yeah, I still have to.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we'll plug you. We'll plug you when you create it. But that was awesome. Thanks for coming on. I think your insight there from actually being in Mexico must have been an epic experience for you. And
Yeah.
so before we leave, what was your prediction? Argentina? You said you're still sticking with Argentina.
Dark Arts Argentina. Yeah.
There we go. Well, thanks again for tuning in. We'll have another episode after the France-Morocco game. Thanks again for all the subscribers. Like, comment, keep this thing going. Matt and I created this pre-tournament just as a laugh, really, and it's gathered pace. We're going to get a few more mates and friends on as well. If you do want to feature, drop us a like or comment, and we'll try and get in touch with you. But Sean, thank you, and everyone listening, thanks again.